Warning! This video will contain major spoilers for all of Little Nightmares. Hey, it's me, Bunto, and today we'll be seeing if it's possible to beat Little Nightmares 2 without crouching or sliding at all. Now, I am down for any challenge suggestion, whether it be for the first game, any DLC, or the second game still. So, fire away, I'm all open. Anyways, let's hop right in. Okay, so let's get some ground rules set. Number 1 is the tutorial doesn't count, and number 2 is that any cutscenes don't count. With that out the way, let's begin. As soon as we leave this little hole after being taught how to crouch, it's no longer allowed from this point onward. It would seem that everything in the woods here is an absolute breeze, but then when we hit this log, it's not so easy. I can clearly not fit through that without crouching. So, I tried to see if there was a way I could go around this horrible log. There was not. So, the next logical thing I tried was to see if there was a way I could lower myself without crouching. I tried quite a few things, and I even tried to turn Mono's head to look downwards using the camera thing, and see if that could somehow make me go under. It did not. So, sadly, we need to crouch already. God, why did these challenges always end so early? So shortly after leaving, we see this log, and I was really worried we'd have to crouch to go through it, but thankfully we don't need to. Another concern of mine is we'd have to crouch to go through this log, but thankfully, just by walking through it triggers the automatic thing where you slide through it. I know I just used the term slide, but it was a cutscene, so shush. And just like that, we're already out of the forest, headed to the hunter's cabin where the game will really begin. After kindly introducing myself to Six, here we have our first little, thing that'll help us through the challenge. See, right here I'm crouched, right? Well, not exactly. You see, this is auto-crouching. It's where I'm crouching, yes, but I didn't click the crouch button. So it's just what the game's doing, and it has zero influence from me. So I won't be counting that, because it's not me doing that. You can count it if you want, but I'm not. Here's a better look. I get auto-crouched here. Still not holding crouch, I automatically stand up. Then, I get auto-crouched again. I'm not holding crouch, and I just got through that without holding crouch. The game did that for me. Now with that basic understanding out the way, let's get back to the challenge. We're going to utilize a few tricks from my previous videos here to avoid 2 unnecessary crouching sections. Now I should clarify, I'm counting crouching as any section where I need to crouch. Now a section could be really small or quite long. Now let's take a look at this. I thought that maybe I could just slowly walk by the hunter. This, of course, did not go well. Then I tried to see if I could run over with Six to try and just push it open early. But she was a little bit slow, and we both died. So sadly, this is yet another crouch. Then we can safely piss off the hunter and make a dash for this little opening. And down in this little weird hole, we don't need a crouch since he doesn't check here. And here in this tall grass, yeah, we have to crouch, because if you're standing, he will see you. You can move when you're crouched, you just can't be standing. And as soon as I uncrouch from this grass, the next crouch will count. Thankfully, we don't need a crouch to go into this little hole. Unluckily for us, there's no way to go through this little tunnel without crouching. Our next obstacle comes at this murky, muddy water where we need to crouch several times to get through the whole thing. I want to point out this fucking part where, after pushing the log, I waited for the hunter to turn all the way left to make a dash for the other side. This, though, does not work. Now, after committing first-degree murder, we leave to Chapter 2. And I know Mono sits on the door, but, well, again, that's a cutscene. And here again, auto-crouching lets us get through this gap safely. A concern of mine is we'd have to crouch, but no, we could just walk through this door. Now, once inside the school, we have to crouch through this underground section. Just like from the example earlier, auto-crouching through this event doesn't count. And here's where things get interesting with this trapped hallway. Rather than going under, we go over this light, but then need to go through this little gap. Now, I was sure that I would have to crouch to dodge this hanging light. But to my surprise, if you just hide perfectly in this corner, it'll miss you. After 6 gets taken away, here's where things get interesting. Now, Little Nightmares 2 is a very stealth-based game, so I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I just started walking and, actually made it to the door. Now here, you'd be quite surprised that there's actually a little safe spot that's not hiding in that little box. If you just hide right there, behind these cabinets, the teacher won't notice you. Unfortunately, we do need to crouch through this little vent. Rather than hiding under these kids' desks, we could just walk behind the teacher's desk as she goes around the room. Right as she's walking towards the far right, that gives us enough time to walk past literally everyone. Right after all of that, we have the section where I was explaining auto-crouching, so I shouldn't need to re-explain why this doesn't count. And this section, you might think we need to crouch in that little box, but once more, we could just go out of view. Once we can safely go by again, we just go and move this conveniently placed jar aside. And from there, we can push this plank and vault into this vent. Here, we are auto-crouched, and when I fell, I thought maybe I would un-auto-crouch, but I was thankfully able to get to the other side. Boom, here's a short chase where we unfortunately have to slide to get through this bookshelf. Thankfully, that's the only crouch we need in this section, as we could just jump over here and just chill in this corner. Once more, auto-crouching helps us go through a little gap. Then we say hi to the locals, but then sadly have to crouch to go under this table. Next up, we have an awful section, the biology lab. To start, I waited over behind this wall for her to go to the far right side, but she just stalled by doing the same animations over and over again, so I had to crouch to go through to trigger the next part. Still crouching, we need to sneak by to go under this other table. Once she's gone by, we enter. And once we go up here, we're not gonna get by just standing around. So, unfortunately, we need to crouch. Once she has her back turned to us, we just sneak right on by. Still crouching, we continue while she progresses through. After making this jump, we're forced to immediately crouch, otherwise she'll notice you. Trust me, I've tried. Once she's gone off to do something else, we make our final jump out of here. After all that, we can safely auto-crouch through this vent and... oh yes. After grabbing a hammer, we smash and dash our way through the school, destroying every single one of these horrible bullies. Then we save 6. Don't make me regret saving you. Open this to a point where I can just walk. You have no idea how much I dislike you. Thanks to 6 being a bitch per usual, we need to crouch to go through this window. Come on, couldn't you just push it a little higher? And I can't believe this, but right after, she does the same thing. And we need to crouch. Right after all that, we just stand here and wait for 6 to kill this asshole. After we pull this vent open, I have to crouch to go through. Going up this ladder, however, forces us to crouch, so that's an auto-crouch. For a pretty stealth-based game, you'd be surprised to see that we don't need to crouch at all. As long as you're just not moving when she's not playing the piano, you're fine. But we do need to crouch to go through and avoid this chase. Go up a ladder, auto-crouched, make a jump, and then cutscene. And from here, we could chill all the way up until near the end, where we auto-crouch through this vent. Sadly, the luck of auto-crouching runs out when we need to crouch to go through this little gap. Once in the hospital, we just simply go over the bed rather than under. Next up is an auto-crouch, avoiding this elevator fall. Inside of the furnace, we just vault in and then simply walk out. Finally, our next mandatory crouch comes in after we see the hand spiders. Our next major roadblock comes in at this damn vent. As you can see, I panic a lot because the hand spider constantly gets in the way of trying to find a way to get in this vent, because I don't have much time before it gets me. Even if the hand spider was gone, we still need to crouch to go through. Next up, we need to crouch to avoid these stupid mannequins by going under this bed. Auto-crouching once again saves us in this vent. During the mannequin chase, we're forced to go under these beds. Then once more, the awesome combo of ground vaulting and auto-crouching helps us get through another vent. Then after a little bit of... we hit this vent and are forced to crouch. Once we hit this elevator, we make our way to the main course of this chapter. We crouch under this shelf and then enter the doctor. And surprisingly, he'll get mad at you if you don't crouch in this specific spot. And we're gonna need to hold on to that crouch button for just a bit longer, as we really need to be stealthy in this section. Still haven't uncrouched yet. We can pick up this little toy without having to uncrouch. Finally, we uncrouch to throw this block and open the door. Dr. Man gets mad, so naturally we have to sneak and hide. Once he's left, we head up here and auto-crouch through this ventilation area, I guess. And then a nice surprise where the game forces me to crouch here. That's not me doing that, it just does that. Once more, game design gives us a vent at a very convenient height for us to go in auto-crouched. Then I grabbed Six's hand, and then we made a mad dash for this other side. And the doctor didn't notice. I don't know how this worked. Then after putting a patient out of their misery, we just casually stand beside this and it counts as hiding. But then we have our most stressful chase yet. The game forces us to slide under this shelf. Then after a little bit of running for a bit, something unusual happens. The doctor kind of gets stuck, and where he would usually try and grab us when we need to slide, he wouldn't be there. We do need to slide, however, to go under these beds. Then after treading through some ashes, we burn the doctor alive. Then after all that, we leave the hospital and... oh, god damn it! Another fucking window stops us in our tracks. Continuing on, our next crouch comes in a very awkward spot. Very shortly after bringing back our future self to the world of the living, we must slide under this bed. Then 6 gets taken, and Chapter 4 truly begins. Here, we just avoid this grandma by just running away rather than hiding. And after quite a while of not finding an area where I need to crouch, we run into this vent where I do. Next up, we have the Thin Man sequence where we need to crouch to go through this little area. Then by going up here, we get auto-crouched. Then we get chased by the Thin Man. Thankfully, this chase only requires one slide from us at the very end. Then we get severely injured, but still need to be ready for the next combat section. And this next combat section is none other than a boss fight between us and our future self. Headed straight to Chapter 5, the shortest chapter of the game. Let's see how many times it'll force us to crouch or slide. In a moment, we will have one of our final chases. And once more, we're able to get by a hiding section without actually hiding. Then, we destroy Six's music box and enter the final chase scene of the game. Thankfully, in this chase, it needs no crouching or sliding from us at all. And with that, that brings us to the end. And I'm gonna let this final sequence play out.